The story begins with two kids who were playing in the garden. A bully comes there and ruins their game. The girl starts crying. The boy, Seth Kang, gets angry and kicks him in the face, even though he was much smaller than the bully. The bully starts crying, and the next day he brings his big brother with him, who was huge for his age. The bully attacks him, but he dodges all his attacks and kicks him in the balls. When he was in 5th grade, some middle schoolers took him to a back street and ask him for money. He refuses to give them money and insults them. One of the bullies gets angry and starts attacking him. He dodges all his attack, and others were laughing at the bully, but they were shocked when he kicks the bully in the face. One of the other bullies slaps him and he falls to the ground, but he gets up and attacks him with his pencil box, making him bleed. That guy was the boss of this group, and everyone was terrified of him. Now everyone else attacks him at once, but he beats everyone. Cops were confused if he really is the one who defeated them. His mother comes there and the cops let him go. His mom asks him not to fight ever again, and he promises he won't fight again. Now he is in middle school, and there was a guy who used to bully him for money in front of the whole class. He controls himself from fighting back. When he gets back home, many cars come in front of his restaurant. Someone had died. His mom was crying after hearing the news. Seth transfers to his old school, where a girl recognizes him, and so do some bullies. They were the guys he beat when he was a kid. Seth sits next to a guy who was sleeping and had strange hair. After the class, the bullies come to him and try to intimidate him, but he smiles instead. They get pissed and start screaming at him, and the guy next to Seth glares at them and they scram from there. The girl from earlier looks at him, but when he looks back, she avoids eye contact with him. She is the same girl from the start of the story. Seth looks different now since he transferred schools. When the guy next to him wakes up and leaves the class, those bullies try to mess with him again. But that girl comes in the way and stops them as she is the class rep. But Seth asks her to get out of the way. He told them that when he was younger, he was holding back because of his mother. But his father ordered him to not get beaten ever again, so now he doesn't hold back. When the guy with strange hair, Victor, comes back into the room, everything was normal. That guy got beaten up by Seth and asks his boss to take care of him. He goes to beat him, but he recognizes him from back when they were kids. Seth recognizes him as well. He was afraid of Seth, so he falls back and doesn't fight him, and calls his big brother. Seth goes to meet his mom. He has promised her not to fight unless someone hits him first. When he gets outside, someone bows against him and calls him boss. When they arrive at the school, they both were sleeping in class again. When the gym teacher comes in, he catches these sleeping and takes them out in the field. He makes them run 3 laps around the field, and the first one to complete won't be punished. They start running. At first, they run half-heartedly, but suddenly they start competing against each other and run like hell. The teacher knew about Victor, but he was surprised to see Seth going toe-to-toe against Victor. Now we see a national wrestling tournament, and one of the competitors was that guy whom Seth kicked in the balls when they were kids. He beats his opponent without a sweat. He was now huge and muscular. His brother tells him about Seth's coming back. The teacher was scolding them not to sleep in class again. He asks Victor about his next match. Victor is also a boxer, a very talented one at that, and he wants to go pro. The next day, the big guy, Brock, comes to their school, and the whole school was in shock, even the student council. Victor wakes up and was jogging. Brock asks him about the class, but he ignores him. Brock grabs his shoulder and Victor gets mad. They start arguing and Victor punches him and starts punching him with his boxing moves. But Brock manages to catch him by the shoulder and was going to hit him, but the gym teacher comes there and stops Brock. Seth was watching all this from the locker room. The student council president calls for a sudden meeting regarding Brock coming back. Apparently, Brock also is a student in this school, but due to some incident in the past, he doesn't come to school anymore. They find out that Brock is here for the new kid, Seth. After school, when he gets back in the car, that girl, Sophie, sees him and was surprised to see him. When he gets back home, everyone bows before him and calls him the boss. Now we see what happened that day. The man who died was his father, a gangster. He asks his father's right hand, what kind of man was he, to which he replies, he was the strongest man in Korea. He tells Seth that his father had been watching over him all this time and his last word were, stop getting your ass kicked. It's embarrassing. That's why Seth doesn't hold back anymore. The next day, student council president Jason comes to talk to Seth. He asks him and Victor to come to the council room. Jason asks Victor if he knows about Brock Chang. Up until 2 years ago, this school was a special school for athletes. The government took care of the school, sending the most talented athletes here from all over the country. But this is now just a regular high school, because of Brock Chang. The school was in an uproar after that fight. All the juniors and seniors were suspended. There were many national representatives, but Brock beat all of them and was almost sent to juvenile detention. But the gym teacher got him out of the situation. He dropped out after that, but he came back to find Seth, but Seth doesn't even remember him. While waiting outside the school, he meets Sophie. She asks him if he still remembered her, to which he replies, "Yes, we were pretty close back then." But then Jason comes there and she goes with him. Seth comes back to his company. His uncle asks him to take his job more seriously. It doesn't matter if he is only 17 years old. He tells him about the Sunshine Company's secrets, like how it is legit only on the outside, but on the inside, it's connected to gangs. He was explaining all this when some men attack their guards. It's Sunshine Group's business branch chief, Derek Paik. He was not happy with Seth being the boss of the company. Seth had already broken his nose before. He was here for a rematch. Seth gets excited to fight because he was in a very bad mood today. The next day, Brock sends his brother to take Seth to him. His brother goes to him. He was scared of him and asks him nicely to come with him outside, and he agrees to go with him. In student council, one of the members was furious at Brock for coming back and lurking around the school, so he goes to fight him with some students. But they were defeated easily. Brock was going to break his legs, but Jason comes there and asks him to stop. Brock asks for Seth, but Seth comes there himself. Seth recognizes him, and Brock approaches to fight him, but Jason comes in the way and asks him to not cause trouble in school. Seth proposes they should fight in the gym as a sport. This way they won't be breaking any rules also. Everyone in the school started going crazy for the fight. They get inside the ring and were ready to fight, but the gym teacher comes there. But instead of stopping them from fighting, he gives them gloves and asks them to fight under MMA rules. There'll be 3 rounds in total, and 3 minutes per round. Before fighting, Seth teases him saying, "Is this because he lost to him when they were young?" Brock replies that's the only time he ever lost in a fight. The fight begins. Brock attacks Seth, but he dodges his attack, grabs him and kicks him in the stomach, and punches him in the back of his neck, which makes a normal person unconscious. Brock falls to the ground, and everyone was stunned by this. Seth was thinking he had already won, but Brock gets up, even after that. Brock attacks Seth, but he simply dodges him and grabs his hair and slams him on the ground. But Seth was not done yet. He starts punching Brock continuously, making him bleed. He was admitted to the hospital. Doctors said it would take him 2 months to heal. The next day at school, everyone was talking about Seth. Everyone was now afraid of him and was avoiding him. Victor was angry at Seth because he is the one who wanted to defeat him. He asks Seth to meet him in the gym after school, but he wasn't able to come there because he had some paperwork to do. The next day, Victor was angry at him for not showing up and says that he ran from a fight. They start fighting in the class. Victor attacks him first, but he blocks his attack easily. Seth dodges Victor's all attacks, but their fight was interrupted by one of their classmates. They decide to continue this fight after school. They were waiting for the class to end impatiently, and after the class, they hop in Seth's car and go to Victor's gym. While they were in the gym, some thugs also come there to attack Victor's gym. Victor doesn't even give Seth boxing gloves and asks him to fight without them. When Seth takes his shirt off, Victor was shocked to see how many scars he had on his body, but he decides to fight him anyway. They had just started to fight, but Victor's uncle comes there and tells him about the guys outside. When they go outside, Seth's driver had already taken care of them. He brings one of the thugs to his company and asks him why he attacked the gym. They found out that the gym was in a lot of debt when they didn't agree to sell the building, and the thugs decide to use force. Victor didn't come to school the next day. After some time, he comes in the middle of the class and takes Seth with him. He shows him the money he gave to the thugs for his gym. They argue for a little while. Then Seth asks him to just focus on his boxing if you want to make your father proud, and says if you want to fight, I'm always ready. Sophie was eavesdropping, but Seth catches her. He teases her and assures her that he won't fight anyone from this class. Jason sees them talking and gets furious at Seth. After getting beaten up by Seth, Derek Paik goes to meet Miduki Ryoshin, the leader of the 3-headed ghost gang. Miduki was disappointed in Derek. He orders him to find his weakness. Derek remembers that he has a mother. In the school, every club member was trying to recruit Seth into their club after he beat Brock. Seeing this, Jason gets even more furious. He goes to a group of students who were full of thugs and asks them to take care of Seth. When Seth was passing by an alley, someone attacks him from behind, making him unconscious. When he gains consciousness, he finds himself surrounded by those thugs. But he wasn't afraid, and that pissed them off. and one of them attacked him. He beats him and the rest of them attack him at once. Seth brutally beats each one of them, even when gets hit by bats. He doesn't flinch and attacks them. At last, he asks the leader to tell him who ordered him to attack him. After knowing who did this, Seth goes to Jason's office. Jason was shocked to see Seth. Seth slams his face on the table and asks him why did he do that. But Sophie comes there, and Seth lets him go. He doesn't say anything to Sophie and ignores her. The next day, his uncle assigns him some bodyguards, even when Seth refuses him to do so. While he was in class, the chairman of the school calls for Seth. Victor tells him that the chairman is Jason's uncle, and Jason's father is the owner of this school, so be careful. Chairman tells him because he has caused so much trouble and hit the student council president, he is expelled from the school. Jason smirks, but Seth smiles as well. He calls his uncle and asks him to buy the whole school. In only a few minutes, dozens of cars come outside the school, and his whole gang comes into the chairman's office and shows him some papers. In that document, all the illegal activities he was involved in were present. Chairman tries to raise his voice, but was silenced in seconds, and they bought the whole school. During class, Jason comes to Seth's class and says that he was not afraid of him, and when Seth gets up, he just runs away from there. Seth's uncle makes the gym teacher the new chairman of this school. After school, Jason again pays some thugs to attack Seth, but when they see him, they throw the money on his face and run away from there. Jason wonders just who is he, and then he sees all the cars surrounding him and was shocked. On the same evening, he asks his mom, why didn't she live with his father? And she says she will answer him some other time. After Seth was gone from there, Derek Page comes there and kidnaps his mother. The next day after school, Derek's men come to take Seth with him and show him a video in which his mother was tied to a chair. After seeing this, Seth was full of rage, beats them brutally, and asks them to tell her whereabouts. Seth calls his uncle and tells him everything. Seth was furious, and his uncle asks him to calm down because he was confident that nothing will happen to her. On the other hand, Derek was calling his men, but they were not answering the call. Derek says to his mother that he has no grudge against her. It's just Seth is not fit to be the boss of the Sunshine Group, to which she replies that he will do better than him. Derek gets angry. She gets off the chair and stops smiling. When Seth arrives at the place, he sees his uncle was already there. He asks him about his mother and goes running to save her. When he arrives in the building, what he saw was unbelievable. His mother beat all of them and was strangling Derek Page.